Hola. Oh, let me do this right. Hey, everybody. What's up? What's up? What's up? Okay. First off, to my brothers out in Brazil. Uh, hold on. Ao vivo agora. Ao vivo agora. Manda o link. Okay. So, waiting on some escreve mensagem para mim. Eu quero vir e você. All right. All right. So, what's going on? Raheem, 911 Nomad, Texas Marine. We're going to talk about some stuff, right? But I want to show some of the brother. Okay. I want to show some of the brothers. I want to just demonstrate some of the thing that I got going on in Brazil, right? So, okay, top on. You vi, Carlos, you vi. All right, so let me greet everybody real quick, and then I'll get straight into this. All right, Ola Guda, Talafa Lava Soifua, Oi, tudo bem? Vocês los bonjour meus amigos. Quero bawani konnichiwa. Nia niama. Sani bonani, Jumbo Habaragani. Assalamu alaikum e shalom. Ok. Para meus amigos no Brasil, eu pegar hoje dois rutadores para você. Para a favela. So, para Carlos e Jefferson, cause você casa perto conjunta, para Jackson, casa de Jackson, ok? So, eu pegar hoje rutador, so, quando eu chegar no Rio em setembro, eu pegar coisas comigo. Entende? Okay, so for everybody else, all right, for everybody else that's up in him, all right, first let me see who's up in him. Brother the White, he getting he's indisposed of for the moment. All right, so 911 Nomad, Simplified Texas Marine. What's up, Sean Williams? Simalu. All right. So right now I'm in preparation for the trip. Okay. I'm in preparations for the trip to Brazil. All right. So I'm trying to get her done. All right. And for those who would like to donate to what I do, because some of y'all, for those of you that know enough, hey, Sean Williams, some of y'all that know enough, y'all know that the communities that I serve in the favelas, they us. Just dropping off in Brazil, I'm dropping off to us, right? And so one of the problems is in the community of the favelas, right? They kind of got Wi-Fi, but they don't have a strong enough signal because they don't have the proper equipment or routers and stuff like that. So I'm taking a set, taking two down there, because I told them the next time I come down there, I told them way back in January that I will be bringing stuff to make that connection a lot easier. And there, when you do something for one person in the community, you're doing it for multiple people in the community. All right, understand that. It just is what it is. All right. So we're going to try to boost the signal, make it stronger, and things like that. Now, as I was looking, and this will be a call-in. So for those of you that have me on Messenger, you can call in. All right. For those that have the 832 number, you can call in. All right. So the 832 number can call in, and the Messenger number can call in. All right. So basically, they had this thing, white people, black people, in with the comedians. Tell you where I'm going with this. And as you look at, and basically Ari Spears in particular, and I'm gonna do an in-depth video on that, and I'll probably set it up tonight. It'll be on YouTube and BitChute, that video. But basically, as I was in discussions with the school and everything, and as I was looking at everything, I had recalled an argument that I've been getting into with a lot of these women, Hispanic, white. We already know that the BAW, the BL female, they are main antagonists. All right, they are our main antagonists. But this thing, the argument was about toxic masculinity. And I wondered, what does this mean, toxic masculinity? All right. And this is a term that went all over all men. And it is the biggest problem in the United States, toxic masculinity. If that wasn't the biggest piece of BS I have ever heard in my life, knock me in the face. It is BS. It's BS for a number of reasons. All right. And we're going to delve into this. But it is straight BS for a number of reasons. And Ari Spears was telling jokes. Everybody was telling jokes. And we'll figure out by the end of this, you'll understand what's been toxic, especially when it comes to the Afro male child. All right. What's been really toxic in the way things have been turning out. And you are going to observe very quickly that it's not been masculinity that has been toxic. All right. So, as we looked over all of these things, as we viewed all of these things, and all of these complaints by women, all these complaints by black women, everybody has a complaint about the men, but when you really look at what's been going on, you'd be hard pressed to hold most men responsible for what's been going on. As a matter of fact, I would argue this: for the people that have the agendas, these big organizations, these, as they say, lizard people, all of this, they have attacked things, and they did it in a way where they made something toxic. But as you look at the evidence, as we break things down, as we judge things, whether they be fair, we're not talking about equal. See, equal is the red herring. Nothing is equal. You're not even equal with your twin. For those of you who have twins, you're not equal, right? And so when we look at this, we're going to concentrate on three things. And I was reminded of these three things when looking at Ari Spears' comedy skit. And the more I saw people laugh, the more horrendous I understood things to be. All right. Before I get started real quick, I was blocked by this female on Facebook named what was her name? I'm going to tell you who it was. Something like Carrie, Cara, what was her name? Cara something. But I'll get to it, but she blocked me on Facebook. I don't know what phone I screenshot her with, probably this one, right? But in any case, if you can, share the link, or share the link in the groups for those of you that are in groups, right? So basically, as we look into this, one quick message. Hey, Texas Marine, were you able to get the car? Just a quick yes or no will suffice. I don't know what the problem is. It was probably a fluke. All right. So back to the problem at hand. So when we look at things, right, we're going to look at the legal system, the home, and the society. And we're going to discuss what's really toxic. All right. So I was looking at Ari Spears, and the difference between white people's children and black people's children, and how the white people's children end up being so not disciplined in America. We're talking about in America, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with American society. But then the other thing was, not only were they not disciplined, but when you look at the so-called black people's children, most of us was beat a half inch to our life. Now, I was looking at something that David Bowman sent me. Okay, I was looking at something he sent me. And the brother sent me a woman talking about taking her child, and this is a BL female, trafficking. I want y'all to understand that. All right, now, you can't make a video on YouTube about it to bring attention to the masses because YouTube would take it down. All right, Facebook is now covering the wickedness that these females do. So now we get into the thing of the legal system where, in the clown belief that people want equality, y'all got bamboozled. You got took. You've been led astray. All right? We should have never been fighting for equality because no one's ever equal. What we should have been fighting for is justice. We want to live in a just society, not an equal society. Period. That's what we want. We want justice. We want the police to go to jail when they murder somebody. Not for them to have the ability to hide behind a badge. The same way that somebody will go to jail for murdering the police. We want police that if they kick down a house of somebody that is not a criminal and just buzzed in and those people defended themselves, they have every right to the pursuit of a good long life as the police officers have for busting in there. They don't get to run in just shooting guns a-blazing and then apologizing, well, sorry, we had the wrong house. And then they get desk duty or a paid vacation. But if the person protects themselves from the police that busts in the wrong house and they think the police are criminals, they go to jail. No, that's not justice. But you see, we live in one of the most crooked societies in the world. And I thought about this. What is capitalism? Capitalism, at its core, along with any other concept that these Caucasian governments come up with, and those that follow these same models, regardless of whether it's in Africa or whatever, anybody that follows that model, all right, you are creating an unjust society, whether it be capitalism, Marxism, communism, all these isms that they came up with. Because in every way, these things are designed by them in order that they may game the system for the top tier. Why? Because people ask for a system and not for justice. And that's where we get to this. The United States of America is probably the worst place to be for a righteous man. A man that cares about being just. It's the best place to be if you want to be a criminal. The legal system protects the criminal. They could get their ill-gotten gains, hire the right lawyers, and they're good to go. A just person can be set up by a wicked person, and they're not good to go. All right? And it's gotten worse and worse is because now we're being judged by our peers, but our peers are weak-minded people that only care about their feelings, and they do not analyze anything analytically within just or wisely. There is no wisdom left. And why isn't there any wisdom left? Oh, we get into it. See, they used to say that the 40s and stuff, that was the last great society. But nobody ever wants to go into what killed it. Chivalry is dead, but nobody wants to go into it in depth as to what killed it. All right? So then you got this side argument, which is a deflection tactic by the guilty as to what's really going on. And now you have to blame toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity. Here's the question one must ask when somebody bring that BS up in your face. How is it the masculinity that's toxic when since 1970, all the advantages and all the children, when they're taken, well, let's not say all, but the majority of the advantages, and for the most part, the children and everything else went to the women. That the government gave everything, the masculine government gave all the benefits and everything to the women. And now let's get back to Ari Spears. He said, and all the black people in the audience laughed because they thought it was funny. And honestly, this kind of joke used to be funny until I really started to think about it. He said, "Oh, you couldn't mount that in a black home." Understand this? In a black home, your mama would beat you to a half-inch of your life if you said something. He said, one day I was with my white friend. My mama came in, it's the joke, and she said, MF'er, if your MF'ing behind don't get your MF'ing stuff up and stop playing that MF'ing game and clean up your MF'ing room, I'm gonna beat your MF'ing A. And she said something else, right? And the way he said it, it was so specific that you know this is something that these mothers say. It makes you surprised that a lot more Afro males don't turn around and be extremely violent, doesn't it? So we're going to deal with the home first, with this toxic masculinity stuff. How can you have toxic masculinity, especially in the black neighborhood, where 70% of the children, or well, 70% of the women are raising their children without father figures? I think Brother Dwight, or it was it Texas Marine, one of them, we was talking, he said, oh, that ain't toxic masculinity. There's no masculinity. All right, and we could go even further. We can say that the toxic masculinity is the so-called matriarchy, because these females keep running around saying they the mama and the daddy, that they are the man and the woman. They said it so much that to clown them, Hallmark made a Father's Day card only specifically for, you guessed it, the black mother. Oh no, that was not lost on me. None of that was. All right. So how can we say that masculinity is toxic? All right. Brothers, We need to stop allowing these females to blame us for their decisions. And the females that's watching in secret, that's going to thumbs down this, we are not going to shut up. Oh, and for you weak-minded dudes that think we complaining, no, we're finally fighting back. But because you so weak that you can't take being logical and standing up for what's right so that we can get a just society, because so long as you keep letting people be wicked to you, they're going to be wicked to you. And that's where we're at. We're at the point where we are tolerating wickedness because we don't want to do the work to approach it in a righteous manner with logic and stand on something. So we don't need any of them weak-minded KNEE that grows. All right? They spend too much time on their knees begging for some coochie in the hopes that they could get some of the leftovers from all the rest of the thugs that ran all up through what we got left. That's why most brothers left. All right? So, basically, that's where we're at. All right? So, in a society that says that masculinity is toxic, all the benefits have been going to the females. When we talk about the court system, until recently, greater than 90% of the children went to the women. Not only did 90% of the children go to the women, greater than 90% of the children go to the women for decades. But it worse yet, the man lost his income. He lost half of his half of everything he worked for. Right now, we're looking at a string of divorces. We're looking at a string of divorces. Dudes just getting divorced, left and right, up and down. Emmett Smith. Now, Dr. Dre had a what do you call it? What do you call it? Oh, somebody help me. Prenup. All right. And given how people was robbing him in the record industry, he probably had that thing sewn up really quick. Got tired of people taking his work from him. All right. So that's how bad it's got. All right. So as I was looking at it, I don't know. Some of you brothers can discuss this. I remember the reason why we were taken from our mom and I grew up in the system was she was beating the hell out of us. I was getting a beating for everything. And think about it. White people get a spanking, we get whipped. And when I kept telling you, and I was like, dang, it seemed as though our BAW single wannabe, I don't need no man mom, the longer we lived with her, the worse the damage that was done to us on so many levels. All right? Violence, nothing but violence. We knew nothing but violence. Think about that for a second. I know I ain't the only one that's gone through this. All right? I didn't look, and all my sisters had all their children taken away from them because of neglect, violence, all of this stuff. Where did they learn it from? This is 14 children among 3 females, all with different baby daddies, with the exception of 2. I want y'all to contemplate that for a minute. And yet, people say you can't say nothing about these women that is causing all this grief. How dare you call that out? Again, I want y'all to think about that for a minute. Think about that for a hot second. Now, I'm wondering how many other of us had the hell beat out of us. All right. And so now we figured out that's how you discipline children. And when I was raising my children, I didn't beat the hell out of them. Because I didn't think I needed to do that to get a message across. All right, when you really think about it. I'm not beating my children like that. Oh, what are they doing? All right? I didn't think it was necessary. I was thinking to myself, all right, all I need to do is get a message across. Don't touch the stove. And some of the times I came up with creative ways to do it. With the youngest daughter, because I used to cook a lot, right? When I didn't want her to touch the stove, what I did was, you know how you do the bottle, you put it under hot water, you fill it. So I would take a fork, I'll put it on the eye, let it cool off, touch it to my hand to make sure it was hot enough that she get the message, but not enough for it to hurt or burn, right? And so what I did was, I want that shock effect, so I just put it on her hand real quick so that she could see that, oh, there's some heat there. All right, and that was basically it. I wasn't trying to kill her. I didn't want to burn her hand off. I didn't want to injure her. I didn't want to do none of that stuff to her. Right? Why? Because she's my child. Not a slave. But we were mainly raised as if these females still thought of us as their manumission slaves. All right. So now let's look at this real quick. So in the midst of all of this, I'm looking at Ari Spears, and he's talking about this. And then I start thinking, how is it that you blame us for all of this stuff when you have the legal system? All right, we are in a matriarchal society. That's why there is no toxic patriarchy. What's toxic is the matriarchy. The women are toxic. Look at what they do. They think consistently to steal other people's work. They get with a man and want to get that paper, that marriage license, so that they could take it. Oh, they might wait 20 years. All right, but in the midst of that 20 years, while you're working, they're out having fun. At will. You just don't realize it because you think she's loyal, and she's never been loyal. All right? And at the same time, they expect us to be loyal. Think about that for a second. So these females jacked up the home, right? Then they jacked up the men through the legal system. And while doing that, they jacked up the children. Remember the cases I put out to you where the women, where the women said that a dude was their baby daddy, only he wasn't the baby daddy, but she knew it. But she could take him to court because he in jail, and she knew that he couldn't go to the thing, and she knew that this system automatically makes the person you name responsible if he can't show up to court to prove he's not. It's a setup the whole way around. And I started looking at it. What's toxic is the matriarchy, but the system uses it to tear men down. They use it truthfully to tear everything down, because if they could tear the men down, they tear the family down, and nobody gets wealthy. And why don't they want people wealthy? Why don't they want us thinking? Because look at what COVID is. This country is now a country of fear, is because instead of being raised by a bunch of men that dealt with things with logic and not fear, most of the people in this country have been raised around or had women over them, whether it be in the home or in the school system. So nobody asks this question of themselves. Somebody sent me this. Nobody asked this question, that during H1N1 virus, U.S. cases were 60.8 million. Panic level 0. China got the blame. Who was the president? Barack Obama. During this virus case, the U.S. have 4.7 million cases. We got panic that shut down the entire world, and you got the clowns just sitting behind the desk asking you to shut down, keep the world shut down indefinitely. Why? Because they're trying to promote fear. How do they know they can do it? Because the difference is you got more and more people raised by women with the influence of women, raised to cater to the needs of the women, instead of saying, F that. We are going to cater to the needs of justice and logic. Women have never been about justice. They've been about just them, but not justice. That's why in Genesis it said for the man to rule over the woman. Because the women from the beginning been thinking about just herself. No, we have to want justice. We don't want equality. When you want equality, you're not going to get justice. Because the powers that be knows that that is an untenable situation to give equality to everybody, because nobody's equal. All right? So, we got mass hysteria, and even though the governors are the ones that shut down the communities, people are so into their feelings and so idiotic, you have to say this, and so unjust. This is why we're hurting in this country. You don't have good people. You have a bunch of people that are criminally unjust, that will break the commandment that thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor. And it's easy for the media to hype them up to bear false witness against Trump for shutting down the country, but he didn't. But this ain't about him, but I want y'all to think about that. So we got a contrast. On one hand, we got Barack Obama's details, way more people. On the other hand, we got Trump. Hold on, wait, and this is how stupid they think we are as a people. They then, YouTube, Facebook, and others, they shut down actual doctors who are treating this pandemic. Wait a minute, it gets worse. Not only do they shut them down, but then they ban a medicine that's been on the market for 65 years to make sure that nobody can be healed in mass numbers. Why? Because they want y'all to take a vaccine. Why? Because when they create a vaccine, it's never going to work. Nope, not the way they say it would. Right? Not only will it not work, you'll have to do it continuously, like year round. hold on. And then after that, if you or anybody in your family dies from it, you better go look at the law.